Hello, and welcome to the Rough Deck Minute, a Movies by Minute podcast where we go over the movie Starship Troopers 1 minute at a time. I'm your host, Johann.
And I'm your other host, Matthew.
And today we are at minute 94. It starts with the troopers unloading on a dying warrior bug, and ends with Rico and Diz pulling Rashik out of a sandy hole.
That could have double entendres way out there, man.
I know, that's why I added it.
Shit. Okay.
Just gear up, people, because this week's kind of a depressing couple episodes here.
I mean, it's going to be a depressing couple weeks, actually. I mean, this week and next.
Yeah. I mean, they already kind of prepped it. There's going to be a lot of death.
And a lot of people coming back that we really don't want to see. Spoiler alert. So it's just going to get even worse. Pack it in, boys. I mean, you guys need to, if you guys need to take some Xanax or some kind of antidepressant, don't drive, especially when you're listening to this podcast, because, I mean, you may be kind of urged to just veer off the road and just slam into something. I implore you to, make sure that you are in a good state of mind while listening to this podcast.
Yeah, remember, if you're in California, it's a recreational use state. Don't do anything that would set your mind in a bad place. Just try and zen out and understand that you already know what happened. It's come to pass. Just relax and deal, unfortunately.
I've been meditating for 30 minutes before each and every episode. I just got it now.
Bathroom breaks don't count, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you've done nothing to prep.
It's my own meditation. I'm inside my own mind. While on my throne.
Yeah. All right. So let's start off here. So we see the last minute we ended it with that bug that was pretty much just on its death roll right about there, and killed the last trooper. And then we have Watkins, Rico, and Ace just unloading on it to just finally put it down. Everybody has a serious face, except if you pause it right at the beginning of the minute. Jake Busey's face is real weird.
A little bit, yeah.
Like, that is just weird. But he's got his dad's teeth. I mean,
that's not something you can't really help, unfortunately.
No, it's not. But okay, at 33:03, we have that moment where the skyhook is dropping out of the air.
Yeah. So
that's right. The Viking look is the bomber.
Yeah, the Viking. Well, I'm sorry. That's a different one. That's the Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt's a bomber.
So which one's? I'm all screwed up.
The Viking is the troop transport that has the bigger capacity. The one that can take 40 or 50 people. That one that we did all the math for.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the smaller versions of the Viking. They're just called skyhooks, mostly used for smaller evacs or high profile people, like small shuttles. This is this is an Imperial shuttle.
Oh, okay.
One thing it kind of bugged me when I was a little kid too. So here is the skyhook. It just came down. It's been about 2 minutes and 16 seconds. I actually timed this too. 2 minutes and 16 seconds from the time that Johnny said the call out, signed the call out pretty much, and whoever was on the Roger Young told whoever pilot that they were going to get into a skyhook and get down there. It took them 2 minutes and 16 seconds. Now I went back to the original drop on Clandathu and timed that as well too, but I timed it from the point where the Viking itself was dropped from the ship itself, from the Corvette, and then landed or was around the same kind of height that the skyhook is, and that was about in 2 minutes as well too. But there's a little bit of a problem there, just because whoever is in this skyhook probably wasn't on the radio or near the radio or in a skyhook to begin with to, get down there. So I would assume that maybe it would have taken her taken whoever was flying this maybe about a minute to get down to a skyhook and get down there. So it would have been a little longer.
Quite possibly. But there is a scene that we have yet to time where the pilot is sliding down a banister. So that accounts for the 16 seconds, because that scene is about 10 to 15 seconds.
Okay, yeah, you got me on that one.
So all the time, unfortunately, Matt, is accounted for.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Oh well. But one thing that I noticed in this particular scene, besides the time discrepancy, I mean, I'm okay with it taking 2 minutes from ship to ground for these things. That's perfectly fine, because these are... It's kind of the same thing like if you guys have recently watched the SpaceX Falcon Heavy land, the two side boosters land. It doesn't take that long for those things to go from, pretty much a suborbital flight to landing. It doesn't take it takes like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
So, and they're pretty much almost in low Earth orbit. They just don't have the speed enough to keep orbit, but they're up there. So, but one thing I did notice about this scene, there are not that many troopers left.
No. That was one of the things I wanted to point out was we have seen a huge group of them to start with when they were surrounding the initial skirmish before Rico gets promoted to acting sergeant. And remember, the tanker takes out about like 4 or 5 to begin with. Then we have the first hopper, which is just a 1. But just this onslaught where they're stuck in the outpost, we do definitely have lost track of every single one that was taken out.
I really wish that we did a kill count for this movie or for this podcast, because that would have been really good, but unfortunately we didn't.
Yeah. Well, at this point it would be kind of impossible, because we never get to see how many people are actually in the Roughnecks that get deployed here.
I can tell you right now, there are 19 left.
Yeah.
Just in this scene, because there's 3 actually on top of the tower. There's usually about 2, but there's one guy hanging around behind them.
And remember, when they first meet all the Roughnecks in the barracks, there is like 40 or 50, and especially when they're celebrating.
There's more than 19 for sure.
So here we have the Skyhook. Looks like it's about to touch down, but we also got the call from Rashek telling him to fall into the center of the compound, basically. Basically try and get everybody as close as they can to the Skyhook so they can just jump out as soon as possible.
Yeah. So also during the scene, you see all the troopers, firing up into the kind of area right there where the bugs are starting to come over. Those bugs are not there during this whole entire scene, and also during when they're in the middle. Verhoeven was running all along the gangway up there, just saying, "Fire here! Look at here! Fire here! Look at me! Look at me! Rawr, I'm a bug!"
Yeah. There's definitely some scenes here that seem, or some portions here that seem to have been removed for this scene. So there's something I noticed when the Skyhook starts coming in at 3310. We have an establishing shot of the outpost. This has significantly shrunk since the outside.
Yes, it has. That's because it's only half the outpost.
Yes, but we already see on the, like, there's just a bottom of the screen, we see the fence of the other, like basically the outside of the walls.
Mm-hmm.
When it goes to the outside of where you're actually looking at the outpost where all the bugs are coming in, it's definitely way bigger than this.
Oh yeah, for sure. So
this is of course just that movie magic where they have to hide certain parts of the scenery, so they, like we were saying, like the trailers are probably here, etc. In fact, even in the back right, there's a huge opening of the outpost right over there that they could just go around. There's no wall.
Yep, that's what I was saying about that too. It's basically just, in the last episode I was saying that it's basically just a canyon back wall. One thing I did notice too, and I kind of had to recant myself from the last couple seconds or couple minutes, there are more troopers that come from that side as well too. So there are more than 19 troopers.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is because you can actually get to see that wall. You can finally see what that wall looks like over there. It doesn't even corner off into a corner at all. You can. It looks like you can just freely go through that area over there.
No, yeah, I know.
So, and one of the things that I was wondering about as well was when Watkins starts to give the call of like where to set up people. He calls out 2 towers.
Mm-hmm.
OP there, OP there. There's only one.
Yes.
So
maybe there's one on the other side that we don't see.
Where?
I don't know, man. Again, movie magic with space wizards. Who knows?
These space wizards get involved in everything. So, anyways, at about like 33:11, where the skyhook is touching down, you can see where the steam starts to come up from the bottom of the what's it called? It's not necessarily landing pad because it isn't one. But the only reason why I'm making a concern, because I understand the idea of like where the heat is going to be, and it's obviously making a lot of steam. But when you see that with a shuttle, it's because it's standing over a pit of basically water, so it doesn't overheat everything. Correct?
I mean that's more along the lines of when something launches from from Cape or something like that. They do have water jets shooting around to make sure that there's less of a smoke plume. But if there's actual steam coming off of this, you can just assume that it's probably just some kind of vapor coming off of the ship itself.
Well, it's on the landing pad. It's on the ground, not the ship itself.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I'm bringing that up is this part is a little bit of movie magic. The reason why I say that is because when it comes down to 3314, all the steam is coming from the ship at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And you use that steam there to try and hide the docking sequence as it touches down. So you don't have that thing where it doesn't look like it's even touching it, or it may look like it overlaps the actual ground that it's on.
Mm-hmm.
So I would reference this as the what's the name of the guy? Rob Liefeld.
Okay.
If you're familiar with his artwork, he hides a lot of feet with steam on the ground or dust, like there's dust everywhere, because he couldn't draw feet. And it's the same way that he couldn't draw wrists, which is why everybody has wristbands and everything like that. And he had a problem drawing hands, so that's why everybody's holding onto a gun at all times.
Mm-hmm.
So this part here, it's just a little bit of movie magic that they did so they can kind of hide the CGI.
That, and also it looks a little more like a model too, coming down a little bit. So it may have been like a superimposed model on top of the screen kind of thing.
Yeah, which is why you would do something like this so it doesn't look janky when it's landing.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I noticed, we've always been talking about how the CGI and the special effects, they always add that little bit of a touch that makes it seem more realistic. There's that part where you get to see the bottom of the ship just for a split second. They have that blinky light going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the navigational lights.
Yeah, it's just a small thing, and it's kind of cool that they add that in because it's necessary, and that's what on pretty much all planes, so...
Yeah, those can be turned on by the pilot, and I'm assuming whoever is this pilot is paying attention to regulation because, again, those only usually come on, like, during night or landing kind of things. So, good on this pilot for paying attention to regulation, unlike some other pilot we know.
Yeah. It's probably one of the other pilots.
Yeah, probably.
But at 3324, you can kind of see... the figure of a pilot in the cockpit, but you can't make out who it is just yet.
Yeah, they have a helmet on. It's behind glass. You don't know who that is. But
yeah.
one person does come out, and it's our old pal, Mr., perpetually looking 35, Mr. Xander.
Yep. Patrick Muldoon, correct?
Patrick
Yes.
Muldoon, correct. Yes. I absolutely love his armor because he has that, like, the eagle on the front of his collar right there. And also he is using the carbine version of the Merida itself, too. And he is making sure all the troopers get into the boat itself, too. But his armor, he looks like, he's basically he has the fleet version of the trooper's armor.
Now, on this, at 3324, where right before Xander's glorious appearance, you can see the front half of the ship where you can see the pilot looking back at something, most likely making sure the door is open, and the co-pilot making their way to the outside.
Mm-hmm.
There's a gun on this ship that's never used.
You mean the front guns that are, like, below the cockpit?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are probably mostly, like, used for strafing runs or something defensive, but I mean, they're not going to use them in this sense because the person has to get down there really, really quick.
I guess. But
they also need to get out really quick, too.
Would have made sense to use it for a scene coming up. That's why.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's the reason why. It's like there was a huge gun pointing in that direction that could have been used.
I mean, this isn't, the Phantom Menace. You don't have, the little kid in the cockpit, I'm going to try shooting. That's a good trick.
Yeah, I guess. Why did Phantom Menace have to top this pilot?
I mean, Anakin is apparently a great pilot, so...
Yeah. It's one crazy pilot. I hate those line reads.
I know.
Anyway. Alright, so in the script, it pretty much happens in... The action that happens in the script is what happens in the movie. Only a couple differences, mainly because there's marauders. One of them is that Rashik actually gives a command to form a circle and to prevent any bugs from coming over that wall because of the retrieval boat. Another one, they actually count, at this point is where they count how much ammo they have. So it's different from like where they're just like the dry fire that you were mentioning in the last minute. They actually have a count of how many rounds that they have. Yeah, I guess it would look like the rifle in Halo. You actually get the counter there.
Or as I keep bringing it up, the pulse rifle in Aliens.
Yeah, exactly. So the original Marauder actually had a count. So then I guess you would kind of zoom in on the fact that they are running low. Yet, well, Dizzy says that she only has 300 rounds.
Well, I mean, like in a Marauder too, if you are in a hopeful, because this is a mech, not a mecha, because there are differences between mechs and mecha. If you're in a mech like this, you probably have a heads-up display that displays what you do have. So, I mean, yeah, they would have instead of dry firing, they would be like, oh, I only have, as you said, 300 rounds.
Yeah. So one of the things that happens here is when the retrieval boat lands, Johnny does secure it, the hatch opens up, and that's it. They start to board the wounded at that point. No one jumps out. We have no reveal of who's flying it just yet in this minute in the script.
Well, we know Patrick's not. I'm sorry, we know that Xander's not flying it because he jumped out with his armor and is starting to shoot.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that in the script, they hold off the reveal of everybody at this point.
Gotcha.
Because Xander doesn't even see who's boarding this ship yet. Which is why it becomes kind of important of like when they start to there's that scene in the movie. I mean, it's not really a spoiler. I mean, we all know what happens, but he says, "What's it called? Your friend is back there," and then looks back and sees Rico. They don't know each other's in the ship just yet.
Okay.
So that's the only thing that's a little bit different in the script. So they go into board, which is exactly what happens here, except with the glorious jump by Xander. And you are right. I didn't mention it yet to concur with you. But yes, he has awesome armor here. But I'm wondering, because of the nature of the operation that was about to happen, or the whatever it is that you would call it, because they were in the planning stages, did he just throw this on his normal, meet and greet type gear? Because this doesn't seem like it would be your everyday mission gear.
No, I'm thinking that he probably has this on because he has a darker jumpsuit than the Roughnecks do as well, too, the regular troopers. He just lacks the helmet, pretty much, and the actual kit that all the other troopers also have. He just has the body armor, the jumpsuit, but it's darker because I guess Fleet wears darker colors.
Yeah.
This is also probably what the Marines would wear as well, too, besides their green helmets.
Okay.
Because, I mean, yeah, again, the Federal Navy does have Marines, too. Even though technically the troopers are Marines, kind of, but not in the sense that they're a part of the fleet.
So one thing I noticed here is when Xander's firing at all the bugs that are climbing over the wall to help the troopers back off from the attack, they didn't start to slack off on anything at this point, which I kind of like. Xander's shooting in kind of in a left to right manner, just trying to get as many bugs as he can. There's actual bullet holes that form on his shot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one of these moments where someone could have gotten lazy because there's so much stuff going on, and they didn't get lazy, and I kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, there are parts where they get lazy, like the wires on the barrels in our last minute, or there are parts that, they get really exemplary with, like this part.
Yeah. So I wonder if it's big. Well, the wires on the barrel might have been it probably is a completely different group manufacturing the bullet holes at this point, because you can add that in post-production.
Yeah.
So now Rashik is just calling him to go in, and it's that really kind of tense moment where the ground starts to shake. Now, we've seen this before a couple minutes ago, where the ground shook and something comes up from underneath. We've all been knowledge about the fact that they can burrow underneath, even with the fact with the dining hall where they were looking at the hole, and that's how the bugs probably got in.
Yes.
So they may have been using tunnels that already kind of pre-existed, but now they have something else that's digging here that is able to expedite the damage.
Yeah.
So, man, all right. I know I'm just a little bit out of it because I know it's coming and it sucks. It just... Rashek falls in.
So I wanted to so I do want to say something about this as well too on the actual production side of this. When the plates come up like that,
yeah.
Dina Meyer was near them and actually got a concussion from when she hit a plate.
Oh.
So they had to stop production for the whole entire day while a nurse tended to her and made sure she didn't fall asleep. In the commentary, NPH actually kind of makes a joke about her joke at her expense, saying, well, Casper, he broke 2 ribs, but he kept filming.
But remember, this was back then before CTE and concussions were even kind of dealt with seriously.
Yeah, and even Casper kind of jabs back at NPH, saying, well, she was actually out. She concussed and then she got knocked out, so she was out when this thing hit her. And also during the actual stuff that they're in, that kind of loose gravel kind of stuff, is actually called Vermiculite. It's mostly used as a fertilizer kind of thing, but its properties are basically it doesn't attract water, or it basically separates from water.
Huh.
Really, really well.
That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, you can actually buy this stuff from your regular hardware store or greenhouse or whatever. It kind of feels a little bit like styrofoam when you pick it up or crush it between your fingers, but it makes for really good looking, extraterrestrial dirt.
Well, I'm starting to think about this also a little bit in the horticultural type of sense. It's kind of like putting cork or some people put rubber on a tree, so then when you water it, the water passes all the way through, but it also shades the water that's in the roots from evaporating.
Yeah,
so
that's pretty much what this stuff is.
Well, that's a really good use for it. I've never heard about this material before.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So that's kind of cool. Those of you out there that have gardens, you want a little bit of Starship Troopers.
Get some vermiculite. You get a little bit of Planet P.
Yeah. So here's the part that the first heartbreak scene that I've had in the movies was Ratchet gets pulled in. He's desperately trying to save himself because there's something under there, and it's the same thing of like the trash monster in Star Wars. Like
go ahead.
You see the movement, there's something in there, and you're trying to figure out like, okay, what's gonna happen, but it happens so fast.
I was more equating this scene, especially with him flailing around and then trying to shoot down, a little more like the opening scene to Jaws, where the girl gets attacked by the shark, but you don't see what's attacking her, but she's just getting, manhandled basically by a unseen force.
Oh yeah, but when I was a kid, I saw Star Wars before Jaws, so I always reference Star Wars first.
Man, I don't know what I saw first.
Yeah, we owned A New Hope on VHS for like the longest time. First movie I saw in theaters was Return of the Jedi. And then I know I saw Dark Crystal also in theaters. I can't remember the order. I'm pretty sure Dark Crystal I saw in theaters after. Because, like I said, I was born in the Philippines, so some of these movies came out in different orders of the way it came out over there. So, it was just that order that I saw Return of the Jedi first.
Speaking of foreign movies and whatnot, I actually posted a picture of the Ghana version of the poster for Starship Troopers.
Yes,
because
I saw that. It's quite lovely.
Yeah, so like guys, if you don't know as well, to kind of tangent a little bit, but in a certain country in Africa, they are not allowed to actually have regular posters, especially stuff that has guns or violence or anything like that. So they have to print and paint their own. And it is weird.
Yeah, I like it.
It's great. It's wonderful. I actually would love a couple of these like up in my house if my wife would like it, but she doesn't. She's kind of a fuddy-duddy like that.
So I did a quick search online, and sure enough, Dark Crystal came up before Return of the Jedi, but even its United Kingdom release was almost 2 months after the US release. So that may have been the reason why I saw it after.
Yeah.
So, anyways, back to the minute here. Man, this scene's...
Yeah, Dizzy and Johnny do, see what's going on, and they go down to help, trying to pull him out as best as they can. Unfortunately, there are two things that can give way. Either Razchek can let go. I'm sorry, there are 3 points of, things that can basically save Razchek or, doom him. Either Dizzy, Johnny lose their grip and he goes down. Either the bug that's below him releases and lets him go, or something's got to give, basically. And unfortunately, something does, and that's Razchek's legs.
Yeah. So in the actual script, it happens much faster, which is kind of terrifying. The ground collapses underneath him. He falls to his waist and immediately starts vomiting blood. And you can hear something chewing on him, which you kind of hear. You can kind of hear it in the movie that there's something under there that's like ha 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 like that. So he's vomiting blood, which isn't shown here because in the movie you're just like, oh, what the hell's going on? What's going on to him at this point? But in the script, it was just violent and quick. And as they're trying to pull him up, Johnny yells out to him, "Hit your jets." And then Ratchet says, "I can't, my legs are gone."
Ooh.
So those are the few things that were different in the script versus the movie. But remember, it's because they had Marauder suits. So Ratchet just tells him to get on the boat. And I'm going to end what happens in the script there because there is more to it. but it's a direct comparison of what happens in the next minute. So I'm just going to hold off a little bit.
All right. Well, let's get to it then for Friday then, if that's the case.
Yeah. So do you have anything else you want to add, Matt?
Nope.
All right.
Vermiculite. That's a cool word. Vermiculite.
That actually is kind of a cool word.
Vermiculite.
Okay. So where can they find you, Matt?
You guys can find me talking about vermiculite and other stuff at AltTabMatt pretty much anywhere on the internet, from Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, or anything like that. You can see pictures of me and my son and his awesome shirt that he wore today, which matched mine, that says, "I like to play with cars."
You can find me on Twitch and Instagram at JDASHD26. You can find me on Twitter at OMG It's Johann. You can also follow us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podcast Addict. We do feed into all those sites. Please like and subscribe, rate and review us as well. Visit our website at theroughneckminute.podbean.com for show notes and back episodes. You can also follow us on Twitter at roughneckmin, MIN. And you can also continue the conversation on our Facebook group at the Roughneck Minute Billet, BILLET. If you have any green thumb tips, maybe you just drop them on over there. So I've been your host, Johan.
And I've been here, the host, Matthew.
And we'll see you on the bounce, troopers.